live from Studio C.
Our new digs.
It's in our new dig. Studio C is Cigar Time, your friendly Tuesday night show all about cigars. And we're going to start out tonight with one of our Eduardo Barber Poles, and T's going to tell you all about it.
Tea?
T.
Did you know? Hey, he's good.
But it's a double wrapper. It's a Maduro and a, it's an Ecuadorian? It's Connecticut.
Connecticut seed Ecuadorian.
Okay, I was close. And I love this cigar. It's a quick smoke. That's why we call it the Quickie. Go ahead, Rob. What else can you say about it?
It's a Dominican filler and binder, so with a Dominican Maduro wrapper and a Connecticut seed Ecuadorian wrapper. It's got a barber pole. I don't know if you can see that on the camera.
Close enough.
It's close.
Yeah.
It's called a barber pole, Quickie. It's only 4 by 40,
Yes.
4.5 by 40.
Something like that.
4 by
Something
40.
like 4 by 40. It's called a Quickie because it only takes about 10, 15 minutes to smoke.
Yeah, basically, if you don't have a lot of time, a Quickie's the way to go.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
no matter how
the
much
snow.
time you have, oh, never mind.
I gave you the line, Paul.
That's right.
You blew it.
I thought
I thought he did a good job.
I did it right.
Yeah.
You did.
Moving along.
So what do you think about it?
I like it. I always have liked the concept of a Quickie cigar,
Cigar, right?
and
Looks like
I particularly like the barber pole because the flavor changes up a lot.
It does.
It does.
Yes, it
absolutely does.
And
Almost every other puff,
And Paul,
Yes.
at your age, a Quickie's about all you can do.
if I'm lucky.
If you're lucky.
It's good. I actually it's spicier than I thought it would be. It's got. I can actually feel this on the tip of my tongue. And you're right. The flavors do change. And I guess we always get the Maduro at the head of the cigar. The Maduro part of the wrapper. Or is it
Yes.
sometime going to be the?
Usually,
Yeah.
on these, the ones they make is usually
Maduro.
Is Maduro, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. You get a different flavor otherwise.
Yeah.
It's
Very
to me, it's a novelty cigar, and if you like the rotating taste, and I do, it's a cool little cigar.
It is.
For how
It's
much is
very
it?
good.
$2.49.
$2.65.
$2.49.
I like barber
Well,
poles.
with tax, $2.49
Oh, okay.
a cigar. It's very, very good. I like it. I like it because it's complex with a different wrapper on it. So I like it. It's very smooth, burns perfectly. It's very good.
It does burn perfect.
It
Yeah.
does
And,
burn nice.
and we do make them with a regular Connecticut wrapper, a Corojo wrapper, and a Maduro
Yes,
wrapper.
we do.
Yep.
True.
And these are also made in our little family factory in
Santiago.
Santiago in the Dominican
Dominican
Republic by loving, caring hands, and you can see all that on our website, which just happens to be at cccigars.com. That's double C, cigars.com.
.com.
And now we're going
And we do
to,
make these one at a time. So
we do make them one at a time,
So,
with
yeah,
loving
it's-
hands.
yes.
Are we going to rate this now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep.
Okay, Paul, we'll start out with you.
I give it a 4.5. It's a perfect little smoke.
Yeah. Given what it is, the price, the taste, I'll give it a 4.25.
I give it a 4.5.
I also give it a 4.5.
4.5.
So we're at 4.46.
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I
Brought
smoke
it
these all
down.
the time
What's
at
wrong
this
with
You
time.
ruined
What's
it.
up, yo?
What's wrong with you,
You
man?
brought it down.
Brought it down.
All right, the lovely Miss T will tell us about our next cigar.
Yeah, our next cigar is a Brick House. It's actually a Nicaraguan Puro with a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper. The sizes are Churchill, Corona, Gordo, Robusto, and Toro. And the taste profile on this one is notes of earth, cedar, pepper, and coffee, complemented by a toasty, slightly sweet finish. Sounds like a really good cigar. You know, a lot of people don't know about the Brick House cigars. Like, they walk right by it in the humidor. I mean,
Really?
They don't even look at it. And I have to direct their attention to it. And as soon as they smoke one, they say, "Oh, I'm so glad you showed me the Brick House."
Wasn't this? I think this was in a top 25 a few years ago.
Yes.
It is.
It
It
was.
was.
It was,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's
I think
ever-
it was
it's
a
one of-
92, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably, and it's every year. It may not be in the top 25, but it's always in the top value cigars
Yes.
that they have. Because this
Yes.
is not a very expensive cigar.
Not at
No,
all.
not at all.
No.
I think this is only like $5.75.
Yeah, in the $5 range.
Something like that, yeah.
Good value.
For the
Very
size,
good
yeah.
value.
And
It's
it's
made
a
by
very
Jace.
tasty cigar.
It's made by J.C. Newman.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's one of the first 2 cigars to come out of their Nicaraguan factory. This and the El Baton.
And probably why I like it so much is because it's a Puro.
It's actually a little thicker for your normal Robusto.
It is. It's,
Almost a double Robusto.
54.
I think it's a 54 ring gauge.
54 ring gauge.
This is good.
I didn't want
Yeah,
to put the barber
Puro
pole
window.
down.
Very nice.
Damn.
You can pick
Very
it up
nice.
later.
And I'll pick it up later.
I guess we have Paul in the fields now. I'm sorry, Paul. You busy?
I'm busy doing something far more important.
Great.
Yes,
We'll give him time to take the mud off his boots and light a cigar. And we're going to hear this week all about
American Made Cigars.
The mud on his boots is from the good old US of A.
Yeah, that's it. American Mud.
American mud.
Should have flags.
First of all, if we go back historically, in the 16 and 1700s, there were very few cigars here in the well, it wasn't the United States yet, but there were very few cigars here. And Americans weren't really very hip on cigars back then, mostly because the tobacco that was grown here, and tobacco was a very important crop in the U.S., the tobacco wasn't really suitable for cigars. It was mostly used for snuff and for chew. And so Americans wanted to consume American tobacco, and of course it was much less expensive than imported stuff. Eventually, cigars came here, and they were mostly in the hands of the well-to-do. They were mostly Cubans and Dominicans, and it stayed that way right up until the end of the Civil War. And at the end of the Civil War, all of a sudden, the industry divided into two pieces in the U.S. And the two pieces were high-end luxury cigars, which were primarily from Cuba and were called Havanas, and cigars that the average Joe could buy and smoke. And those were pioneered by pioneers, actually. They were the folks moving out west after the Civil War, riding in their Conestoga wagons. And in fact, that's why inexpensive cigars, beginning back then, were called Stogies, because the guys in the Conestoga wagons. Anyway, they continued making cigars in the United States, and that business grew very, very fast. In fact, by the end of the 1800s, virtually every city in the United States had hundreds of cigar factories. There were 42,000 of them in the United States at that time, although most of them were 2 or 3 women rolling cigars in a house. But nonetheless, there were some major brands back in those days, like J.C. Newman, Fink out of Texas, and Bayuk. Those are names you might not know, but they had many, many brands. If there were 42,000 factories, there were over 150,000 brands of cigars at the time.
Paul, weren't there clusters of factories in cities that you would not normally think of as hotbeds of cigars?
Like Cleveland, Ohio in
exactly,
particular, and some in Connecticut, and in Trenton, New Jersey.
Trenton.
Also,
Actually, Bayok, wasn't that in Philadelphia?
Bayok was in
Bayok was a
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia
There's a
company.
lot of factories
They
in
were the
Philadelphia.
original. They were the original makers of Philly cigars.
Yes.
Percy too, right up
Yeah.
the street. There was,
Yeah, everywhere
I think
there
Red
was,
Lion.
yeah.
A lot of them in
Red
Philadelphia
Lion,
area.
right.
Red Lion, yes.
There were a lot of cigar factories or manufacturers.
The U.S. made cigar industry continued to grow a lot right up until World War I, and World War I actually had a very bad effect on cigars because all of a sudden the government was putting cigarettes in our GIs' mess kits
Can you imagine
and
they try to
sending
do that
them
now?
off to
Yeah.
fight the war
Holy
with
cow. cigarettes
cigarettes in their kits. And that's really the first time that cigarettes surpassed cigars in popularity. The cigar industry's answer to that was to introduce machine-made cigars and try to bring the price down and bring the volume up. And for decades, machine-made cigars really supplanted premium cigars or handmade cigars as the dominant factor in the industry. That changed again in the 1950s, and there were a couple of things that caused that to happen. One of the biggest things that changed the complexion of the cigar industry in the U.S. was that one guy who had a virtual monopoly on tobacco in Cuba got into a bit of a tussle with the Cigar Rollers Union in Cuba and announced to them that unless they did things his way, he was going to close down his whole operation in Cuba and move it all to Trenton, New Jersey. And he did.
Wow.
Trenton
And-
makes.
and
with the world
and the
takes.
world takes.
Yeah.
And that brought a whole lot of premium cigar making back to the U.S. And then, of course, when the revolution took place in Cuba and Castro rose to power, a lot of the best cigar makers in Cuba came over here and began rolling cigars in Little Havana. And that was the birth time of some of the brands that we know well as Miami Made Cigars, like La Gloria Cubana and even Padron, and there were others. And they emerged real big in the 90s during the cigar boom. They became the major brands. The boom put so much demand on those little factories in Miami that most of them were bought up by the big cigar companies, and the factories were moved back out into Latin America where they could produce in serious volume.
What caused the boom, do you know?
Nobody really knows. Some people say it was the launch of Cigar Aficionado magazine, but I think that's maybe trying to put too much credit in one place.
You know, give the devil his due. I really think that Marvin Shankman, with Cigar Aficionado, had a lot to do with it. Because once the Hollywood stars started finding cigars fashionable, it not only helped, obviously, to sell the magazine, but it also helped the, you know, the regeneration of large amounts of sales in the United States.
From 1992 to
Yeah.
1996, the industry tripled
Yeah.
in the U.S.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we can't say the quality tripled.
No.
No.
Nah, there were tons of
There were a lot of bad cigars back
just
then.
rogue
Sad to say.
manufacturers grabbing up
Oh.
crappy tobacco and used rollers.
So
Yeah.
most of the cigar making industry had then left the United States during the boom, and it's only come back on a very small scale. In Miami, there are some big boutique brands. You had mentioned
Tatuaje.
Tatuaje is one of those. And
Padilla?
Padilla
Padilla.
makes some cigars in Miami.
Right.
And in fact, one of the originals, La Gloria, well, not La Gloria, but Ernesto Padilla, is making cigars on a small scale again in Miami. And of course, there are also the Amish cigars, the Pennsylvania Dutch type
Yeah.
Yeah,
cigars that are still being made.
John Hay.
John Hay.
In Lancaster.
Hey,
That's
hey,
right.
hey, out in Lancaster. Still today, there's very little American-grown tobacco in any of the cigars that we smoke, other than the Amish tobacco and the Amish-style cigars. The only exceptions to that being, of course, the Connecticut tobaccos,
Right.
the Connecticut Shade and the Connecticut Broadleaf, and some Pennsylvania tobacco, the Pennsylvania Broadleaf, which is growing in popularity. So that's my story for today about American-made cigars.
Well, let's save
Nice.
let's save the rest for next week's show.
Okay.
Next, we have the rating and the review of the Brick House.
Oh, we're not going to do our topic first?
Oh, we can
Hold
do
on.
it.
Okay.
We can do a
It's
topic
your call.
first. Your call.
Oh, it's
Your
my
call.
call.
Whatever you
make
want.
the
Yeah,
decision.
beginning smokers. Like, what do they need? What what do you
Right.
need to get started?
Yeah, this was a suggestion actually from one of our viewers that there are a lot of beginning cigar smokers, and they said we should do a topic or we should talk about that. So if you're just beginning, go through the basics. First, you're going to need a cigar cutter. This is just one type. You can also use a punch cutter. There's also a V cutter. We used a V cutter on our last show. You need that to clip the end of the cigar or the foot. And then, of course, you're going to need, the head, I'm sorry.
You like the foot.
Yeah, top of mind. You're also going to need a lighter, obviously. I prefer a soft flame. I'm indoors, so it's very easy to use that.
Why do you prefer the soft flame?
The soft flame? Because I don't think it doesn't singe the end of the cigar as much. I don't think it burns it as hot. But a lot of people find it easier because most people smoke outside, so it's a lot easier to use a torch. Somebody has a torch over there.
Blue.
Jet,
Fire that up.
jet flame.
A jet flame.
Oh, yeah.
That's a triple.
Can I
It's a
show
triple-
mine? It's
triple
a
flame.
triple backward.
Right.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, that's great. Lovely.
Did you guys just do that?
Yes, we did.
Oh, man.
I mean, I just saw you do it, right?
Yeah,
I just
you
want to make
did,
sure
you
my
did.
eyes
You saw
weren't
us
playing
do it,
tricks
okay.
on me. Okay.
All right.
Two veterans of the cigar industry.
Exactly. And then you're going to need to store your cigars because obviously you're going to buy them. And so you're going to need a humidor. Humidor is basically a specially manufactured box to keep your cigars in. And they maintain the humidity at, so they don't dry out. That's 70%, and you want to keep that at room temperature. Some of the keys in buying a humidor is you want one that has a good seal. That is the absolute most important thing because that's what's going to keep the humidity in. How you determine if it has a good seal, there's a number of different ways. I find the best way is if you simply lift the lid of the humidor and gently close it, you'll actually feel it go from really loose to like a tight fit. If it doesn't have that, then it probably doesn't have a good seal and it's not going to keep the
What do you
cigars.
think about the glass top humidors?
Glass top humidors, some of them, I think they're very showy. Some of them work fine.
It's just
You have
nothing to go wrong.
It is. You
Yeah.
definitely you have to keep that out of the sunlight, and actually a lot of light, because it'll
Yeah.
fade the cigars. You have more of a chance of a leak. You have more chance of
Right.
humidity escaping. So I don't recommend it, but some people like that. There's nothing wrong with that. We do have some that we sell. So you want a good seal. Other people will take the lid and they drop it, and if you hear it wood against wood,
Yeah.
then that's not a good sign because it's
You have
a
no
sign-
seal.
No seal.
Exactly.
Exactly. You also want a heavy lid. One not so heavy that it tips the humidor over, but one that's heavy so it actually stays closed. And then you want a good nice thick wood. You don't want anything that's too thin. Maybe about a ½ inch thick, you would say. Anything thinner than that, it's just
Tends
not
to
as
warp.
It tends true. It tends to warp, but it won't maintain the humidity. And then finally, you want to make sure it's lined with Spanish cedar.
Yes.
Spanish cedar is the chosen wood a lot because it's very absorbent. It will absorb the moisture and release it when right, and it also gives what a lot of people think a pleasant flavor to the cigars. It's not overpowering, and most humidors are lined with Spanish cedar. You have to stay away if you ever find one from closet cedar. That's horrible.
usually very inexpensive ones.
Exactly. And what you want to do when you get your humidor is you want to wipe it down with distilled water, or there's special solutions you get. All of the wood inside, that'll charge the humidor and get it ready to go. And you put your humidifier and your hydrometer, which measures the humidity, and you are off and running.
I would suggest a digital hydrometer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
The analog ones are notoriously inaccurate. So
Exactly.
the digital ones are much better.
Let's talk about the
You
various.
all left out the most important thing for a beginning smoker:
Cigars.
cigars.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, before we get to the cigar, let's finish the humidor. I think it's important to talk about what kind of device you use for humidification.
Okay.
There are several types of devices. Rob, why don't you explain some of that?
I just use the regular Credo, the thing that looks like the
Hockey.
it looks like a hockey puck or just a brick of green florist foam. That usually works for me.
I think they work for me. I've used those over the years, but I think for somebody who's a newer cigar smoker,
I like the
either
crystal
the
jars.
jar, there's a
Jars,
jar
they're
that
the-
has,
they're the
gel.
easiest
Yeah.
way to
The
do it.
crystal
That-
gels in the jar.
and then there's the Boveda packs where you plop it in and you're good to
Oh,
go.
yeah,
and then
those
when
are
it starts
cool.
to get hard or the humidity drops,
Right,
you just get a
just
new
get a
one.
new one,
They're
right.
not very expensive and they're very, very easy to use. You don't have to think about when you need to change or when you
Right.
add distilled water.
What we have at the Reading store is we have a little starter pack called Eduardo starter pack. It has a case, a lighter, a cutter, and a cigar, and case, lighter, cutter, cigar. Yeah, and it's a nice, cute little starter pack. So we sell them for $19.95.
Also remember, when you fill your cigar box or your humidor up with cigars, you need to open it, if only just for a few seconds, every few days.
Yeah.
Little oxygen in there and then close it, because a lot of new smokers aren't smoking on a regular basis, and if you leave the cigar sit there too long with the humidity inside of it, you can get them too damp, and you don't let them breathe. So
Exactly.
they need a little air once in a while. You don't have to go crazy, but every few days just crack it open for a few seconds, then close it. That'll be good enough.
How about cigars? What are good beginner cigars for somebody who's just starting out?
A Macanudo.
Oh, our cigars.
Our
Oh,
cigar,
yeah.
well, our Suaves, of course. I think a
Actually,
Macanudo.
Suave, yeah.
I think, well, that's what we have in the starter pack. We actually have a Suave, which we did on the last show. It's in the starter pack, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I think a Macanudo. I always point a new beginner smoker to the Macanudo line. It's the mildest of all the cigars. You really can't go wrong with them. I haven't tasted a bad Macanudo yet.
Yeah, I would start, if I was a new cigar smoker, I would start with something milder
Yeah.
as opposed to something fuller bodied, because you can always go up and add, keep getting stronger cigars if you like that. But you can, usually if you start with a really full bodied cigar, you're not going to like it, and you just stop smoking cigars.
Exactly.
So,
So
and
something
you don't-
like
we don't want that.
a
So.
Romeo, an Excalibur,
Romeo,
the
Excaliburs,
Suave.
yeah, Suave.
Yeah, some of the Fuente, the milder,
Fuentes,
the Chateaus.
Chateaus, double Chateaus.
I
Yeah.
think that it's very
Ashtons.
important for beginning
Ashton.
smokers
Oh,
to
Ashton classics.
experiment as much as they can,
Yeah.
That's
as
the
early
fun. That's
as
the
they
fun
can.
of cigar
Yeah.
smoking.
Exactly.
I
Much
still,
like-
But
we all do.
gradually start
Yeah.
yourself. You know, don't do what Rob
But-
did to
yeah.
me and give me a soprano soldier.
Yeah, and come in.
I wanted you to quit. So.
Right. And you can always come in.
The store?
The people that, the
Yeah.
associates, everybody that works in the stores we hire them because they love cigars, and it's a passion, it's a hobby, so they know a lot about it. So come in, say, I'm a beginning cigar smoker, you know.
Don't be afraid to do that.
Absolutely.
And we will help
It makes it
you.
fun for us.
It's not just a matter of selling you a cigar. We will help you find cigars that suit your palate and your budget, and help you do the kind of experimenting that you can do to find your perfect cigar.
Exactly.
Yeah, we all love talking cigars, so
We do.
yeah,
It's
to
what
the
makes
point-
it fun.
To
As
the
you can
point,
tell.
you know, you'll be wanting to run out of the store because we'll just keep talking to you about
Yeah.
it. So
Especially
we
if
all
you Captain
love,
Bob.
Well, yeah,
And we love for people to ask for recommendations. I
We
love
love
taking
Bob.
you around
Absolutely.
around the
Speak-
world in the humidor.
Speaking of excessive talking, I think it's time for us to talk
right,
about
yeah,
Brick
right.
House and
All right.
review it because, you know,
I'll
or
go
else we're going
first.
to need an hour-long show.
I go first.
That's what people
I'm
want.
actually loving the ash. I mean, check me out here.
Mm-hmm.
I think by the end of the show, I can get it all the way down without ashing it at all. So we'll see.
But
I
more
think
importantly, how's the band?
the band's okay. It's very classic, very old
Oh
school
my
style.
God.
Looks like a Victorian type band.
That's all I would get it started.
Yeah, I think it's a great cigar. Like I said, when people ask me for recommendations, I always take them to the Brick House. The construction is beautiful. I can taste the pepper. As soon as I lit it up, I could taste the
Yeah.
pepper actually right away. But then it's kind of, evened itself out, kind of got a little bit smoother towards the middle. So, excellent cigar.
Yeah, I like the cigar. I didn't think I would when I first smoked it. I do get the peppery taste. I do get the sweet finish on the end of it. Peppery coffee taste a little bit. It's very well constructed. J.C. Newman, they put out very, very good products.
Yes.
So I like the cigar.
Paul?
I like the cigar. For me, it's a little bit too mild. It's got some pepper, it's got some spice. For me, it just doesn't have enough of any of those things.
Okay.
There's
Oh,
nothing
well.
bad about it, it's just not
I
my...
kind of see where his rating's going.
Actually, I think, speaking of a beginning cigar smoker, I think this would
Oh,
be this would be a
absolutely.
very
yeah,
good cigar.
you're
Excellent.
right.
I mean, it's not mild by any stretch, but it does have. I think it has a lot of flavor. It's a medium-bodied cigar. I also get the little bit of pepper, a little spice,
Right.
and the coffee, but very smooth and extremely affordable.
Yes.
I think we may have talked about that when we started out the show, but it's a very affordable cigar. It's got great construction. It's made by one of the oldest names, if not the oldest name in the business.
It's a family.
Yeah.
The Newmans still run it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I can't really add anything to what's been said here, except I agree. It's a good beginner cigar. The price is really hard to beat. So let's rate it.
4.25.
God, I hate to agree with you. Yes, 4.25.
You don't know how badly you need that. Well, I give it. I want to be a little contrary. I give it a 4.4.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm going to
really.
be contrarian also. I give it a 4.26.
Oh God! This is
And
Price
I'm-
is
really?
Price is Right.
I'm going to be really contrarian, and I'm going to give it a 3.95.
Oh, bringing it down.
That's not horrible.
It's not.
4.31.
Okay.
That's
Beat the
pretty good.
Mendoza line.
We beat the Mendoza line. Okay.
Ooh, for our favorite part of this of the
Yeah.
segment now.
New segment.
Yeah.
Your fourth favorite cigar of all
Your
time.
fourth
Yeah, we're doing
favorite
our
cigar.
top 5 favorite cigars, and this week we're on our 4th favorite. So, T.
My fourth is the Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur #1
Ooh, big
in the
cigar.
Maduro.
That's a big cigar.
It
That's a
is.
man
That's a
cigar.
big cigar.
Big black cigar.
I can handle that. Thank you.
Oh, good Lord.
Wow, it's a family
Okay.
show.
I didn't say anything wrong. It
Christian
has a
audience.
Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, which is probably why I like it so much. The binder's Honduran, and the filler is Nicaraguan and Honduran. Cuban seeded Dominican as well. So it has a nice blend of everything. The construction's beautiful. I just have a big respect for Hoyo de Monterrey cigars. I even like them in the smaller pack of the cigarillos if I'm going somewhere where I don't want such a big cigar. So I love this one.
Passionate about it. That's for
Wow,
sure.
yeah,
Rob?
really, how about that? How about
He
that?
is passionate about that.
My fourth favorite cigar is the Oliva V. It's a great cigar. It's got a Ecuadorian Habana sun-grown wrapper, and it's got Nicaraguan filler and binder. It's beautifully constructed. The wrapper is gorgeous. Tia will love the band again.
I love that cigar.
It's very smooth, very sweet. It has a nice sweet finish to it. I think it's just a fantastic cigar.
Okay, moving along to me, the Arturo Fuente Don Carlos.
Nice Cameron
Excellent
wrapper.
Yep.
cigar.
Oil on that Cameron.
Yep. On the heels of the V, a nice powerful smoke. I think it's the best cigar the Fuente makes. So
Huh?
since
Wow.
Wow.
we're coming up a little shy on time, I'm going
Well,
to
the
be
good
brief.
Well, okay. The good news is my fourth favorite cigar is an Oliva V.
Oh,
However,
great.
Wow.
I specifically
Really?
said the Lancero on this one. I think
Really?
it has a much better. I think it has the best flavor of all of them. They're all fantastic, but I think because of the wrapper to filler ratio on a Lancero, which I don't smoke a lot, I love the flavor on that. Full-bodied, but very, very smooth.
It's
Yes.
a wonderful size that just
It
not
is. It
too many
doesn't-
people
doesn't
like.
catch
Yeah.
on. Yeah, it's a beautiful
Yeah.
cigar.
Paul?
My fourth favorite is the Flor de las Antillas,
Yeah.
which we rated a few weeks
It's the
ago.
#1 cigar.
It was,
Yes, it
in
was.
2012, it was the #1 cigar of the
Yeah.
year. And it's a Nicaraguan Puro. It's a medium-bodied cigar from a company known for putting out full-bodied peppery bombs. And that's what I like about it. It delivers on all of the complexity and flavor, but it's not a full-bodied bomb. It's just delicious.
I just like to say the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Flor de
the
las Antillas.
Oliva V was. They're in the top. They're in the top
They were top.
25
Oh,
every
they're
year.
always are.
They're
always-
always top.
they're
I
always
mean, you
always.
cannot go
Yeah,
wrong
That's the
with
always.
best
Oliva.
cigar Oliva puts out. by
No
far.
question about
Yes.
it. No question.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Don't
cigar.
forget to send in your top 5 cigars.
Yeah.
So we'll tabulate them, and then once we get to our #1 cigar, we'll rate everybody's, do an online thing,
And where should they
we'll read it.
send? Where should they send that?
Paul.
cccigars.com.
That's CCigars.com.
Right.
Just
Thank
want to
you.
remind everybody again. We talked about it last week that we are now a family of 9 stores in the greater Delaware Valley
Beautiful
and
new
Freehold,
stores.
New Jersey, because that's outside the Delaware Valley. And you can find us everywhere. So just go to our website, CCigars.com. Another show is wrapping up, and I just, on behalf of everybody, I just want to thank you all, and everybody say goodbye.
Smoke often and smoke happy, folks.
Mom, life is too cheap to smoke a long cigar.
Another
That's Mom.
Wow.
another wonderful day with this group.
Yeah. Ciao for now, everybody.
Bye-bye for now, and check out my ash. I did make it last.
Oh, life is too
Hey,
short to
that's
smoke
cool.
a cheap cigar. That's what it is.
On behalf of
Sorry.
everybody, we'll see you next week. Keep smoking, have fun.
Bye-bye.
Bye.